Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. If you're watching on YouTube, you can find out more about what we do at officehours.global. Our first hour is general discussion about media production, and our second hour is usually something we want to spend a little bit more time on. And today, we're going to be talking about the Apple event. It may have seemed like a minor thing, and they were mostly talking about Macs, but we really think that it was really just a commercial for the phone and how it was produced. And to make sure that we kind of squeeze all the learning out of it, we're going to take the behind-the-scenes video they had and really try to break down and do the best we can at identifying almost every object in each scene, just to kind of try to figure out what those all are, and we'll talk through it. If you're in Mukana, definitely be ready to chat us. We'll have your chat opened, so if we can't figure out exactly what something is, you might be able to help us. So it'll be kind of a group project that we work through in the second hour, a bit of a lab. So stay tuned for that for the second hour. And we have a special guest as well, so stay tuned for that. But if you have questions for the first hour, go ahead and throw them in. It is you can go to Mukana or you can go to here, just askofficehours.global. A lot of questions come in every single day from askofficehours.global. So if you can throw your questions in there. You don't have to sign into anything, or just throw the question in and then we'll feed it in. If you want to vote on those questions, then you can jump into Mukana. And to do that, just go to officehours.global and check out Join Us, and you'll start getting emails. In the bottom of the email, a little link to join and be able to vote and do all those fun things. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. Mitch, what do we have?
Thank you, Alex. First in, Andy Kokendorfer from Vieira, Florida asks, how would you feed a live panel discussion into Discord?
Cut and paste. So there's not really any good way to do it. Discord, I don't think it really has any of the tools to do that very well. I mean, you could cut and paste if you have a discussion and you want to do a live panel discussion. Oh, into Discord. Sorry, I misread. I thought we were asking for comments out of Discord. Discord has its own streaming capabilities. I think that they're pretty limited. I think that I don't know if the numbers are still limited. For a while, it was like 25 or 50 people that could watch a video. I think the audio was a little higher, a couple hundred. So I think that there's a way to do it. And in fact, I think the audio version has increased a little bit in that area, but it's been a little quirky. Obviously Discord, this is not their thing, but there is a way to stream into it. And we tried it early on and decided, we were like, oh, we'll do special little get-togethers inside of Discord, and we found it so limited that we stopped using it. So I'd have to go back and revisit. I'm sure that they've probably made it better, but in the early days, at least when they first started doing video streaming and audio streaming to it, the quirkiness and the limitations on the numbers were so problematic that we just gave up on it and move back to what we were doing. So, we'll do some research. Maybe you'll see, because of your question, you might see some tests into our Discord, just so we can see what's actually, what's what. Next question.
And it's our first QR code question coming to us from Manny B. in Dallas, Texas. What's a good, affordable video playback and graphics system that will integrate with the ROS Carbonite switcher? We produce daily corporate meetings and internal corporate events, so we need a quick playback solution. ROS playback is too expensive.
Okay, so what he's basically, the ROS playback or expression and so on and so forth is probably more than he wants to spend. So there's a couple different things that you can do in that area. So for playback, I mean, obviously the most affordable is something like Playout B, which Jonas Dotel makes. He's in our own group, and it's a small one. It's you can run on a Mac, PC, or Raspberry Pi. You can also run. Another thing that you can put out there is the HyperDecks themselves. The HyperDecks are network controllable, and the ROS, that open platform, and I just can't think of the name of it. I'm sure Bo will send me a thing about it, but I can't remember the name of it. But the ROS has an open architecture where you can design things and make calls, and that can talk to a HyperDeck. So you could, and that doesn't cost anything. So you could have your ROS switcher talking to a HyperDeck, and so you could use Blackmagic's Playback for playback to make that actually work. Another program that you could use is something like Softron on the Air, also QLab. All of those will take commands, and again, if you use the ROS routing, you can reach out and talk to those things as you go. So those are other playback systems that you could use. For graphics, you have to think about it. SPX, which is what we use on this show, is one that would actually work for that. Again, you're now talking about two different things, but SPX is one. There's Blue True Blue titler, that I obviously haven't used very much. So, but because we use SPX here, but the SPX doesn't cost you anything, but you might want to have Tuomo do some development work for you to put that actually together, and that. We use key fill out of Casper CG, which reads the SPX into our show itself. Go ahead, Courtney.
I was going to ask you, does that raw switcher require Genlock? So you'd have to have a player.
I don't know if it requires
reference in so that it would be in sync, especially with if you got an alpha channel coming out as a separate feed.
Yeah, I don't know if the ROS requires it. I think that most of the time the software. The software that I will, as far as SPX goes, that reference would go into the video card that you have there. So you'd be sending the reference into the video, into a Blackmagic deck link at that point. So you'd still be able to do that. But I don't know if the ROS requires that or not. We'll have to do some more research on that. Mitchell?
Does the ROS talk to the SDK and the HyperDeck shuttle? Because I like the shuttle, but it's just not great for doing tops and tails and building a playlist. Nice if it does that.
The ROS switcher or not, but you should be able to run the commands that you'd like to run from the ROS. And I can't think of the open source, not the open source, but their open platform. They have a ROS platform. I'm looking. Oh, here it is. Hold on, Bo. I was like, if I keep on struggling, Bo's going to send me a text. So the ROS dashboard, thanks, Bo. ROS dashboard is what you're looking for there. And he says any software can receive a network command, should be controllable via either the Carbonite directly or through the intermediate dashboard panel. Reach out on Discord. Yeah. So we'll that would be probably a fun little project is to tie that together. So there you go. Next question.
Next up, John Snyder from Reno, Nevada. What is your risk tolerance when it comes to purchasing B-stock?
Courtney?
I usually think it's not very risky, especially if you're purchasing B-stock directly from the manufacturer. If you're purchasing it, Fry's before it went under was notorious for selling refurbs or B-stock. And then you didn't know what has happened to it because they would take stuff that was sold to somebody out of Fry's and return to Fry's because it was broken or didn't do something or somebody did something to it, and Fry's would put it right back on the shelf and sell it as refurb. But nobody really looked at it. Maybe they plugged it in, see if it lit up, but they didn't do a comprehensive check. Most of the refurbs that are sold by the manufacturer do come with a limited factory warranty. Sometimes instead of a 1 year, they'll make it 90 days. So at least you have that to fall back on, and you can return anyone. I've had really good luck with refurbs for commercials. We used to, when we needed 50 monitors, we'd get them from the manufacturer's B-stock. And out of the 50, we may have one that had some quirk to it that didn't work correctly. So we would have to ask for another one or replace it, get extras. But I've had pretty good luck with B-stock from the manufacturers. And if you're buying off the Apple site, if you're buying refurbs, those have been checked out to meet factory conditions and ship them out with a limited warranty.
Go ahead, Mitchell.
I agree with Courtney. First of all, B-stock is usually a product that's been open boxed or a manufacturer has used it at a trade show. So it's very lightly used in most cases. And if it's refurbed by the manufacturer, it might as well be a brand new device that's been tested for you, which is the way to go. So if I'm buying Apple refurb or B-stock, it's as good as the new thing because they offer the same type of warranties. And it's like if it had a quirk in the manufacturing, the chances are it would have showed up during that B-stock. And plus, it's cheaper. So what's not to like?
Yeah, I use B-stock on anything that doesn't generate revenue. So I buy used cars, I buy used houses, I buy used televisions for my house, I buy all kinds of things that are used. But if they're actually making money for me, I buy them new. Like that. That's kind of my rule of thumb. Because I don't want I want a long warranty on it. I want the full warranty, and I also want to know just that no one else has used it at all. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. But all the houses that I bought, which is one, and all the cars that I bought, which is I don't know 5 or 6, and lots of other things I buy used. But I don't buy things that make me money used. Next question.
Next one in from Scott Pulsifer from Philadelphia. We need to build our production room monitor wall, which is 2 chairs, a 10-foot wide by 3-foot high max area. What monitors would you choose? Bigger screens, quad split, or multiple 27, 32-inch screens? Best value or cry once? Thanks.
So when I have built those in the past, I have generally used 27-inch monitors. So those 27-inch 4Ks, it's really hard to get 4Ks in. And what's nice about a 4K monitor at 27 inches is that it relatively comfortably splits to 1080s. So you can get a quad split and split 4 things into it, and you're still seeing 1080p. So what I have found to be the most successful, and it also has to do with the weight. I put these on these racks or on these trees. And now the other thing you may want to think about is mixing and matching. So depending on what you're trying to do, you may oftentimes what we'll do is have a couple monitors that are oftentimes they've been across the top, which are like 55-inch monitors. And these 55s, it might be 3 or 4 55s going across the top. I built something almost identical to what you're asking for. And what we did is we had 4 55s that went across the top of that 10-foot piece. And then we had, I want to say 8 of the 27-inch Dells that went down below that, and we had one that was a reference monitor. So there's a Sony reference monitor that we could look at and know that's the only one we trusted color. So there was all the rest of them we purposely did not try to calibrate. We don't want anyone telling us that they think the color's off by looking at the monitors other than one. Like when we all crowd around it and go, okay, that color is right. Otherwise, you just end up, it's just like you're chasing your tail most of the time. But that worked out really, really well. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I'm with you, Alex. I would have maybe 4 55-inch 4Ks. They don't have to be really great monitors with multi-views feeding into each one of them. And the way that's a lot better than using discrete monitors, because the multi-view, you can rearrange that, whether it's 4 up, 4 monitors per screen, or 16 monitors per screen, or 9 monitors per screen. You can change that multi-view so to accommodate more inputs. If you suddenly need more inputs, you don't want to be adding monitors. So you need several with multi-view, and then maybe two program and preview that are maybe higher quality Sonys or medium quality 27 inches 4Ks for your program and preview. And the rest can all be multi-view big screens, because you just need to see basically what the composition is before you switch to it. You're not judging quality on a lot of those incoming signals. So cheaper the better, and the more versatile the better.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things that I don't like to have. I mean, I think some people get into buying really nice screens for every screen, and I do think that oftentimes gets you into, as Courtney said, you're spending a lot of money on something you don't necessarily need. Here's one that, this is the one I was talking about. This was our little control. So I have less monitors than I said I did for that space. Let me see here. So let's, it was out of my memory. This is my memory versus the photo. So here you have, this is a very small little control room that we had in Washington, D.C. for our tiny little studio. So, all of this kept the sound, down. Let me see if I can get that to work. This kept the sound down. And then, of course, this was, we had this built, so we have little turrets, and here's our comms and everything else into it there. And then here's our 55 inches that we can obviously we have 16 splits and all kinds of, big programs, so we could always look up and check focus. Then we've got a couple, kind of more space here. Here's that calibrated monitor that I was talking about there. And then, of course, this is a controller for our PTZs, and we're using telemetrics heads for that. And then our switcher, our little X32 with a little X controller. But that is for a 3 or 4 camera shoot in a little studio, worked pretty well. Now what's hidden from that is that's kind of got local routing, and then there's a whole room that you don't see that's full of hardware that made a lot of that work and had any kind of overflow needs managed. All right, let's go ahead and to go back, I'm a rare return to a previous thing. Carbonite can accept reference or generate its own. It also has licensable format converters, frame syncs on each input, but one way or another, sources must be synced. Next question.
Samuel Norvik from Norway. In your opinion, what is the sweet spot of the amount of people at a venue before it makes sense to imag?
That's a great question. We actually talk about that fairly often. And I think that for us, we usually start talking about 300. 300 is about where we end up. And a lot of this has to do with how your room is set up as well. So if your room is very long and wide, so for instance, if you think about, if you have a small stage and then a small stage and then you're running, let's say 10 seats on each row. So you're doing 20 per row. You can go 200 is only 10 deep, 300 is 15 deep. So 300 is not going to be that far away from them. But once it starts getting about 300, you're going to have a problem. Now, if you reconfigure that, we've done a lot of stuff where we have it in the round, and then we have either on 3/4 or we'll have it like this. And if you do this, for instance, on a roundtable discussion, and what we've done in the past is then in these gaps, we put screens here so that they can look up at whatever you're talking about. Or it's on imag, but it's just something you can look up at. And in this configuration, you can, 300 or 250 people is like 20 feet from the speakers. And so because you've used all of the geometry that was available to you. So it depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. So we've built them in a couple different ways, but on a standard, kind of traditional process, we would say somewhere between 300 and 500, and 300 is where we'd start really thinking about putting it. But 500, after 500, I would say you absolutely need imag, or people feel like they're really far away. Next question.
Tobias Martin from Dusseldorf, Germany, has a QR question for us. How can I utilize keyboard shortcuts or simulate key presses using Companion without having the native Stream Deck software installed? Unfortunately, attempting to use Vicreo in this scenario was unsuccessful.
Do you need the native Stream Deck software on to use Companion? Is that? And I have to admit that I have not used Companion enough to know. I've worked on projects with Companion where someone else set it up for me. My home office is all Stream Deck, like just the Stream Deck native software. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Sorry. I'm not certain. I was just doing some of this with Jack yesterday, and I think you do, but I don't know 100%.
All right, we're gonna have to come back to that one. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I think if I recall, I have mine unplugged right now, but I think when you plug the Stream Deck in, it requires the software to be loaded for the drivers to work. So,
oh, right. Okay.
Whether you use it or not, even if you're using Companion, I think the drivers are loaded and the software is loaded on your computer.
Yep. Next question.
Jeff Cohen from Miami Beach, Florida asks, Bill's worthless Red Shirt PetSmart video footage could have been saved. Thoughts on how Adobe's Firefly video AI and Project FastFill will change problems just like that?
I don't know if it'll change problems just like that, but I don't, and I've been using the AI fill a lot. I had a most recent one is as I was doing some lower thirds, and the lower thirds were for a red carpet. And anyway, I wanted to have the director, in the shot in kind of a red carpet environment, so you could see the name of the director underneath it, and get a sense of what it's going to look like. I find that if you hand people lower thirds without an image behind them, they make bad decisions. Like they make decisions about things they don't realize what you're doing and why you're doing it. So I had the director. I put the director, but they were all vertical shots of the director. And so the funny thing about generative fill is you don't have to type anything in if you want to fill. So you just select the open space and hit go. And it just goes, okay, I'll just do this. And then you hit another one, just hit return, and it'll just fill the spaces. And it filled it quite nicely. And I was able to then throw it in as an example. I don't use it I don't think I've used Firefly or the generative fill in Photoshop. I don't think I've used it for any like production, but as a previs tool, as you're filling things out, I think that it's pretty great. I also used for those lower thirds, I did try using Midjourney for all the subjects and thought that it's pretty cool. Courtney.
Well, you don't need AI to change the color of something. We've been doing it for many years with, Ultimate. I remember working on some Levi's commercials where these Levi's came in multiple colors, but we just shot the commercial with green colored jeans, and they changed the color in post on all of them using Ultimate. Just matted out the green color and put in any color that they wanted to with a linear key. No one knew the difference. We shot the models with just one color.
Yeah, I used to do. There was a time when I think I did a couple for months. I was in MacBreak, the MacBreak video. It looks like I was wearing different shirts for every show, but it was just one blue shirt over green screen. So it was a blue shirt over green screen, and all I did was just like, it's now red, it's now this, it's now that, it's now this. Especially if it's not a color that's close to skin or whatever, being able to do selective color change is a really easy project in almost any video piece, any video software. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, selective color has been available in After Effects. I would do that, spot the color, and then bring my friend Hugh in.
Next question.
That's all I get? Okay. Douglas Carmichael asking, Ableton announced Live 12 today with many useful features. What does the panel think?
It's a monster of a program. So I think that this is probably a better Wednesday question than a Tuesday question as far as who's here to talk about Ableton Live. But haven't been able to, usually if you do things that are announced today, we can announce that something was announced today, but we don't have a lot of opinions about it yet because we haven't had time to look at it. But the features look good. Ableton is just, it's really interesting. What I was interested in to look at was, it feels like Ableton and of all things, Logic are starting to go kind of like a lot of the features in Logic are actually really focused on many of the things that Ableton, does. So so I'm not, the big things that they're talking about here in this specific one is being able to reshape MIDI patterns, do more with Max for live, more tunings, they're putting in a way to stay in key, edit MIDI more easily, modulate more flexibly. So, those are all the things that they're kind of working out. I mean, it's a super powerful program. If anyone's seen, Todd Reynolds has been on our show a couple of times and done some just eye-popping work or ear-popping work in Ableton with, both traditional and modular and everything else. It's a really, really powerful program, but I'm not as familiar with the new features yet because it just got released. If you have questions for the first hour or the second hour or comments about the Apple event breakdown, go ahead and throw those in. You can either use Mukana if you're in Mukana, but if you're not in Mukana, you can just use askofficehours.global or use this little QR code right there. But askofficehours.global, you can throw those in. And remember, you can throw those questions in 24/7. So if you have a question that pops up in your head, you don't have to go anywhere, sign into anything. You can just simply drop the question and we'll feed it into the system. Next question.
From Jack Rupel in Breckenridge, Colorado. Earlier question Monday and last week on neutral density filter iPhone, I want to make a new backplate for a cage for NDF while keeping lidar sensor clear. Attach two 17mm threaded NDF to spatial camera lenses. I shoot in bright conditions with snow on the ground. Your thoughts?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, you're going to have a problem because as I see it, isn't the lidar sensor this thing right here underneath the lenses?
Yeah.
So if you get a big round neutral density filter that's going to cover all the lenses, it's going to also cover that lidar sensor. And I don't know if it's going to interfere with the lidar sensor because of the reflective glass in front of it. The other thing I thought about maybe you could do is someone I'm sure will come up with some, but there are these little tiny neutral density filter sets for the drones that you can get they stick on the front of the drones, and you could make a little round to square adapter. They're held on by magnets. So you could either 3D print an adapter that goes from that round, the round front of the iPhone to one of those little neutral density and stick one on whichever lens you're going to be using. And perhaps it wouldn't interfere with the lidar sensor, but I think you're going to you may have problems. Just try it. Just hold one up and see if it messes up the lidar.
Yeah,
you build something.
You for the spatial are the two lenses that are side by side. So you'll turn it to that orientation. And so it's a matter of covering those up without cover. It doesn't, that third lens won't matter for spatial. And the spatial, by the way, if you haven't seen, is in the new beta 17.2 that is out there right now. I have not had an opportunity to shoot very much with it, but I did upgrade so that I could get access to it. And it's, I mean, from all reviews, it's pretty impressive as far as being able to shoot stuff. And then folks who have access to the headset have said that the result is pretty. I think a lot of people thought that people were going to shoot spatial birthday, like birthday celebrations and everything else in with their headset, but that's probably not going to be the way they do it. They'll do it with the phone, and then they'll deliver it to the headset. I'm going to shoot my son turns 16 on the 24th, and I'm going to shoot his birthday in spatial. I won't be able to see it until I get the headset, but I'm going to still shoot it that way. And anyway, so we'll see.
So to shoot spatial, you have to shoot in landscape mode. You can't
Thank
shoot
goodness.
in portrait mode.
Thank
Yes,
goodness.
Thank goodness. And you're using these two lenses.
It's now
here.
forcing everybody to go back to sanity. So like it's like you cannot do crazy things anymore. You can now have to, if you want to be spatial, you'll learn how to turn your camera 90 degrees. I know it's hard, but it's all on the wrist. It's all on the wrist. Next question.
O'Cordell from Charleston, South Carolina. I'd like an easy to ship, easy to set up solution for two 1080p monitors, along with their keyboards and mice. I found the mobile Pixels Geminos Dual on Amazon, but I'm still exploring options.
The mobile let's see here. And I apologize. I didn't get to this before the show, but these are like little ones that fold out, so that it folds out from the. These are so. It's interesting.
Yeah, it folds vertically up to be two monitors and then closes like a laptop.
Yeah. It probably would not be the way that I would do it. Let's see here. This is, let's pull this up so you can see it. I guess somehow I ended up in a Best Buy instead of Amazon, but it should be the same thing. So this is what it looks like here. You can kind of fold it out. I mean, that looks like it would be very fast. So it's kind of interesting as far as a sandwich goes. These are, I don't think that they're not touchscreen, are they? They're just, they're just monitors. It made me feel like they might be touchscreen from here, but I don't think that they are. It's an interesting format as far as opening those things up and it looks like you can kind of open up in whatever orientation you want. The way I have done it is with arms. So I know it's probably not as easy to ship, but what we have, Amazon actually so at home I have cheaper arms, these Hawanu arms that I use, but they're heavy and bulky and hard to put on. The ones that work the best for the price are the Amazon Basics. It's about $270, $280, and they're just arms that you can clamp onto most tables, and then they come out and you can put two 24-inch monitors or 27-inch monitors on them, and they just float them around. I have to admit I like that a lot better because I swing. I'm so used to swinging monitors into the position that I want them in. I would have a hard time, but they are much heavier than what you're looking at here. But I feel like you get more flexibility. Go ahead, Chris.
Two things. Number one, can you define an arm? You said they're just arms.
Well, they're not. Yeah. There's arms.
I'm confused on the exact terminology of arm.
I don't know.
It's early in the morning. You can grab it and move it?
Yeah, you can move it around. Yeah, you can move it around.
Okay. So mine, I've been buying the cheap ones. They go in, out, left, right. But to move them up and down, I have to get tools out.
You're not living.
So that's not an arm. That's just an arm.
That's just an arm. Yeah.
I got you. Okay. And the other thing I was going to say to Bo and anybody, actually, if you've never set two monitors on one computer vertically like that picture, you should try it and make sure you like it, because there is an awful lot just from a user interface, like I touch my computer all day thing, that you don't realize that you capitalize on the fact that when you take your mouse, you like for example, you go into your menu bar. Let's say it's a Mac. You slam your mouse up against the ceiling, so to speak, click and pull down the menu. Or if it's a Windows machine, probably the same thing. You slap your mouse down to the bottom of the whatever they call it down there, the start bar, or I don't know what they call it. But you do that. I do that all the time. I go boom, click, pull. And so when the seam between, when the seam between your monitors isn't a ceiling or a floor, it's a lot more mental thinking, like, oh, I have to reach and click here and pull down. It might seem subtle, but I ran a couple of monitors on one computer like that for a while 30 years ago, and really quickly I was like, oh, this is for the birds. This is not the way humans should be working with computers.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, I found I'd seen this before somewhere. This thing called Tropire, and it's a screen extender for your laptop that extends it with 2 additional screens. It folds flat and fits onto your laptop on either side like that, which looks pretty slick. You just it's about the same size as your laptop case. You could slide it in and add 2 screens to your laptop for mobile working, so you'd have 3 screens when you're working in the field. It's Tropire. Triple your pleasure, triple your fun with Tropire.
If I may recommend, if you're flying with that, you should probably get a center seat.
Or you're going to really annoy. Well, you can run it. You can ask your seatmate what movie would he like to see, and just put it on.
Yeah. So if you're a family, you sit in the center, but your kids could be sitting on an aisle and this window, and you could all watch. You just mirror it across there, and all of you could be sitting there watching the same movie together, but not together. That'd be weird. Next question.
From Chris Widener in Lafayette, Indiana. Azure Virtual Machine, anyone using it for virtual production, relative cost versus AWS?
I don't know anyone doing any medium to small work. I mean, the only thing that I see people using Azure for is industrial size solutions that are usually lots of linear channels or lots of, very complex workflows. And I don't see it very often. But there are folks who are using it as they built an entire infrastructure to manage their streaming platform or something like that. And then Azure is something that I've seen folks use for that. I've not seen anybody use it for a day-to-day production. It's almost all AWS. Next question.
Jack Rubel from Breckenridge, Colorado. For iPhone, is there an inexpensive solution for a GNSS RTK base station for ground truth of photos, photogrammetry, and lidar? Sparkfun has one for approximately $700.
Yeah. So what this is designed to do is really give you. So I think that what he's talking about is when you're the GPS solution that he's talking about here is the design is to it's a style of that. The problem is that you have a GPS locator, but it's not accurate for a variety of reasons. One is that I don't think the military used to round it off, so you'd only get plus or minus 50 feet. I think now you're down to plus or minus like 10 feet. So you have a point here. It's a bad color. We have a point that's here, and it is so you have this radius that you're dealing with, and you want to get that down to something more precise. And so what you need to do is you find known points that are inside of a system. And so if you have a radio system, you can say, I know something's 30 miles away, and I know this is, and I know what and I can triangulate, what those are, and I can get that down to millimeters. And so what happens is then you have that known point at a location. I'm just guessing this is what Jack is asking about. And so what ends up happening is you have that known point. Now you use radio transmitters from there to constantly come back to that point. And they calculate their relative position, but they also calculate their distance back to this home point. So we might set a home point up at a location, and then every time we'll drop a transmitter down, we'll attach it. So the way you make this actually work is that, let's say you have you're surveying. So the one that I've used in the past is what's called a Trimble SX10, and the SX10 has 2 two things. It has a lidar, relatively low lidar. I think it's like 60,000 points a second, but that's nothing compared to like 1 million points a second on a Leica. And the new Leica is like 2 million points per second. And so 60,000 is relatively low and relatively what we would consider sparse. But the advantage that it has is it has a surveying tool built into it, so it can go back to a reflector. So what you end up doing is it can calculate the exact distance that it is from a reflector. And the reason that that's important is that you calculate this radio distance, and then you have a point that is, let's say, a reflector that pops up. And then you have the SX10 that is drawing that point from there. And here you're dropping a pin. You're actually putting nails in with little flags on them to identify where those pins are. When you calculate this hard distance and you calculate this distance, you're going to get a very, very accurate result. And if you keep on doing that, so if I calculate another one like this and other ones like this and then ones across, as I do this, I start tightening that calculation. So I'm building a bunch of triangles, and as you do those triangles, you will get a more and more accurate calculation that will give you. It means that every point that the SX10 sees, so all the 60,000 points or million points that it grabbed, every point, because it draws back to that calculation, is accurate, or that's the calculation that you're making. We know that it's accurate to this level from that lidar, and we know where that lidar was down to a couple millimeters, which means we know where those points are down to 10 millimeters or 20 millimeters or whatever. And so that's the kind of thing that you can calculate with what I believe Jack is asking about, just kind of referencing it, just glancing at it. But it's, I have no idea how to do that with a phone. So to get back to your answer, I don't know how to do that with a phone. I have done it, as I said, with much more expensive hardware. So we'll keep our eye on it. And the person to ask, I'm going to get Fred Fikert on to one of our shows once we get to the new year. Fred's a good friend of mine, and he's the only reason I knew anything about what I just drew, which is a very crude solution here, is because he taught me. so anyway, we'll try to bring him on, and we've done some fun stuff together. Next question.
QR question in from Agent Ogden in San Francisco, California. Seems like everyone is excited about the new Final Cut Pro updates, which amounts to basically nothing. The Final Cut Pro versus Premiere debate that kind of started was getting interesting. More of that, please.
Go ahead, Chris.
First of all, Agent Ogden, is your first name Fritz by any chance? Interesting if it is. So, we don't know that the Final Cut Pro update is nothing. I mean, I just double checked. It hasn't been released yet. Maybe you're speculating on what you've heard. You know, I think I would hate being Apple, because if you don't release like an Apple branded hoverboard at every event, everybody says you're not working hard enough. It seems like they're always working, but nobody's ever happy with it, what they get. I haven't seen the update yet. So I don't know what you're seeing.
Good, Courtney.
And we'll probably talk about it in the second hour today. Is I found it interesting that when they showed the behind the scenes of their Apple commercial that was shot all on the iPhone, it was edited in Premiere Pro, which was very strange for an in-house Apple production.
Yeah, I think that I think that the issue really is that number one is I think Apple should have cut that, shown Final Cut and shown it that way. I think that was a very odd solution there. I do think that Apple, we have to remember that Apple's number one, so Apple doesn't have any predators or really even competitors at this point for their market. So they, in general, like their phone market and everything else, they're not, the only thing they have to worry about is antitrust. So literally Apple's like so far ahead of their competitors in the areas that they're in. They're not really competing with them. They're just worried about the government telling them they can't do this anymore. And so a lot of times when you see them showing competitive things before their own things, showing that they can include other things, a lot of it has to do with the fact that, hey, look at all the places that we're playing nice with others. So some of it I think comes from that, is that they just have to be super careful now, because they just really aren't, like when 87% of kids under 18 are using an iPhone, that's a big deal. Like that is like if that terrifies Google. Like that's why Google is making such a big deal about this messaging thing, because I've talked to my kids and they're like, oh yeah, the green bubble is a no joke. Like nobody wants to be a green bubble. Like they just feel like they're either really weird or their parents don't like them. That's how it's viewed in high school right now. And so it's a really rough thing. Why is Apple paying attention so much? And I think that if you look at the iPad version, you look at where Apple's going and making it really easy to edit fast and really focusing on efficiencies, not a ton of features that we want as, seasoned professionals, but what you want as a social media person or what you want to build as you're building is to go back to that. 87% of everyone under 18 is using an iPhone. Who is the next market? It's them, and they're going to be coming out and showing them that they can produce professional quality results on an iPhone by doing your keynote that way, building tools that make it easier for them and not listening to necessarily all of us to do that, I think makes a lot of business sense. We may not like it, but I think that, and what I saw with the stuff that Apple was doing is really what they're working on is the efficiency of moving fluidly through content and being able to tell a story very fast in content. They're not trying to put every bell and whistle that everybody else puts in. They're trying to make it efficient of what most people need to do a really good job without a lot of work. And I had to do a Final Cut project last night at the last minute. I had a file from a project I was working on. We were doing a live project. Something needed to be delivered very quickly. And did I take it into Resolve to do that? No. Because I know that it'll take a little while for me to tweak and figure out, and there's a really good possibility that I could export it. If I was in a rush, I could export it the wrong way out of Resolve, and then I have to do it again, and all these things. So I took it in Final Cut, did all the things I needed to do, exported it out. Was it perfect? No, but it was done in 15 minutes. so it was, and I think that's the thing that I go back and forth between, like, if I'm doing a big project and I'm going to set everything up and put all my pins in, I'm going to use Resolve. If I'm going to do a fast project and I need to get it done right now, I'm going to use Final Cut. Yeah, go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, feature parity between Final Cut and Premiere is constantly like this. They're constantly one-upping each other.
I mean, don't think so.
Somebody comes out with one thing, and then Premiere comes out with text-based editing.
I don't even think it's like
wonderful
this,
how that works.
I don't think the feature parity is Premiere's got way more features. And Resolve's got way more features than Final Cut. Like, I don't think that there's no feature parity anymore. Premiere and Resolve are way ahead of Final Cut when it comes to features.
Yeah, I didn't put my Resolve up
right.
here.
Well, no, but I'm saying those two are Premiere and Resolve are competing for features. Like they are, and I don't, they're in a cage match between each other, trying to compete with each other to go after the market that is right under Avid. Like Avid lives in this world where they don't have all those features. It doesn't really matter because they have people who are never going to change. So they're going to, so they've got all these, they've got that all there. But Premiere and Resolve are fighting for this. They're fighting head to head and throwing incredible amount of money. Avid has what it has. It's not getting any bigger, but it has it. And it's lock in. Apple is, playing for, Chris can tell me, but elegancy. They're looking for elegant solutions to how you do an average, a good, solid project that needs to be done. I don't know, Chris, if that makes sense to you.
Yes and no. I think that there's I think that at the top, I'm just going to say this. I think that at the top, there's some fundamental problems with the brain trust at Apple. I think that a lot of people at Apple are, and this is going to make some people mad. A lot of people at Apple are too busy keeping their jobs to do their job. They're driven by their 401k, and they've lost sight of what Final Cut could be. That being said, we lean heavily and rely heavily on features in Final Cut that nobody else does. Nobody else is trying to do them, and I completely agree that Premiere and Resolve are in a different class. I don't need that stuff. What I need to do, I need to complete projects quickly. efficiently, and I need for a broad level of a broad range of editors to be able to work on them without getting bogged down by another 30 preference screens like you deal with in Resolve.
Yeah, and I think that, if you ask me, like, someone hasn't used an editor before, and you have 4 hours to teach them how to use it, and then they got to go out and shoot some stuff that's going to look reasonably good, I'm going to teach them Final Cut. Because
I don't even need all 4 hours. I can do that in about 45 minutes. We have editors that work for us full time that have never edited in tracks.
Right.
And, and like never once.
Mm-hmm.
And when they came to us, Danielle is a great example. Danielle's a great photographer. Everything in her mind is a framed, piece of work. We're going to teach you how to edit. Oh, okay. And she's a great editor because she sees things in a frame as a composition, but she never had to learn how to edit. We just said, here, this is what you do. Oh, okay. In that regard, Final Cut is way ahead. Now, Mitch doesn't need that. Courtney doesn't need that. Alex, you clearly don't need that. But to a lot of people, that is the thing. That's the bell curve, right? That's the bell curve. That's the heart of it. And that's why there's more people sitting at Final Cut than anything else. You just don't know who those people are because they're not, making Hollywood movies.
Yep. I go, Courtney.
Yes, I want to correct something I said earlier. I said that Apple produced those in-house. They actually didn't. The production company on those stuff was Radical Media, which is a commercial production company in LA and New York and London. And so they did probably all the post work to Radical Media's, but and I'm not sure if TBWA is still their ad agency, but so since they Radical Media probably would choose their own post-production pipeline.
I still think Apple should take one scene out of every TV show that they do and just make and pay someone twice as much to do it in Final Cut. Like just as let's just see where we're at and tell them. They don't have to do all the scenes, but just one scene out of it, one piece. It would be really interesting because I think it'd be useful for them. But I don't think that the reason that they probably won't do that is I just don't think that TV and film is Apple's target market for Final Cut. Like I just think that there's a lot of quirky requests and they're still going to use Avid, or Premiere or whatever or Resolve. They'll ask for so many the reason that I use Resolve is because there's a lot of niggly things that I need that Final Cut doesn't have. But I know that I'm going to Resolve to solve those problems. Next question.
Kyle Hammond from Chicago, Illinois. I'm in need of a pop-up internet in downtown Chicago. Budget-conscious suggestions.
Budget conscious is complicated. I mean, a MiFi is going to give you something. You can get multiple modems with a PepWave. I always get the two. There's a product and a company, and I get the two of them mixed up. But PepWave has ones where you can now get the hard part is if you're getting a really short-term a pop-up from Verizon, getting a 1 month or a per month-to-month cell number is really painful. So you might have to get a 1 year to make that actually work. Then there are services that the disaster recovery. So Keenan Campbell, who's in our group, has services that will just give you a box. Is that did I get that right, John? Disaster recovery, is that right? So Keenan Campbell, he's in our group itself, and he's got a great. I mean, if I was gonna get somebody to help me with a pop-up in Chicago, I'd call Keenan and talk to him about it. And because he's someone in the family and he's done a lot of work and he understands how this actually works. So you can probably find him on Discord. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, check the local cell providers and the exact address where you're going to be shooting, because there's a lot of 5G point-to-point stuff available from the cell phone suppliers that do pretty decent high bandwidth 5G fixed point, so that if you've got a clear shot at one of their 5G nodes, you can get pretty good bandwidth. So just check their coverage maps and see if they have fixed point 5G for a reasonable price.
Next question.
Next one in from Douglas Carmichael. With so many pro production apps moving to the iPad, when would you use a MacBook Pro for mobile production instead of an iPad?
Mitchell?
I'm not really into making that decision because with an iPad, it's kind of like your little finger, unless you add a keyboard to it and a mouse, then maybe it's got on a parity with it. But I would say MacBook Pro.
I use MacBook Pro 100% of the time in production. Like I don't, my iPads I use to review things in production, but I don't use iPads for actual production in the field. And I there's just too many things. I need to open up the real Photoshop to do stuff, and then I need to open up the real Final Cut to do stuff. And I need it to be the full thing. I think that we could get to a point. I oftentimes think I could go to an iPad, but I haven't actually done it yet because it's just not enough. And file management on an iPad, I know that they're making it better, but it is just a royal pain in the neck. And so just being able to drag files and move them is so painful that it keeps me from actually thinking about the iPad as a viable production platform.
Do you think that Avid is working on that right now?
Avid? No. It's just, but I just trying to find a file. Like I have so many things I have to do very quickly. I have to grab this file and I have to do this thing and I have to move it over. I just need to be able to drag it onto my desktop for a second and then I'm going to put it in my app and I don't have to figure out like, I got to save it to the files folder and blah, blah, blah. It's just a pain in the neck. So I love my iPads. I usually go to a production with 2 iPad Pros to cover communications and all kinds of other things while I'm in a show. That's what I had yesterday. But I don't use it in production. Like I don't use it as a production device. Next question.
Chris Widener, Lafayette, Indiana. For recording software training on one machine, are there any gotchas for recording Parallels content?
There shouldn't be. The only thing you'll get caught up in is if you're doing anything with copywritten material. I think even through Parallels, I'm not sure if Parallels will do it, but all Apple products will make that screen black. So it's that they have the copyright stuff kind of tuned all the way out. So I think that would be the only thing I'd be worried about. I don't think that is going to be your problem, but you should be able to capture it from Parallels without any issue. I will say that almost all the captures that I do, I don't do screen captures. I do HDMI out into now I capture in 1080p, not in 4K because the screen is easier to read. And I do that with a Pix 240 because the reason is that it is a camera out. Means there's no pressure on my computer to do captures, and it just does the thing, and it also is not affected by that copyright problem, which is very useful for me, and so that's the other piece of that puzzle. I do think that ScreenFlow, if you're on a Mac, is the best screen capture program to use if you're going to use software. Go ahead, Mitchell.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Pix 240. Every time I'm putting it on the shelf for the last time, I have to bring it out to do something. It's just an amazing little device.
Yeah. Next question.
Tommy Shands from St. Paul, Minnesota. Pardon me. What is the correct way to get the audio from a mixer into OBS? We're currently going through an ATEM Mini and having problems monitoring volume output to the stream.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, Tommy, that's a interesting problem. I think the best way to monitor what's going to the stream is to set up another machine and listen to the stream, in your control room. I will say that when I was doing the little tutorial for the loopback thing we did last week, I sat down and as it turned out, I was like, wait a second, how am I going to record this? And it dawned on me, I could actually just record it in OBS. And I had never really done that before. And the reason I couldn't record it in the ATEM or the output of the ATEM is that I'm currently using a USB webcam and I've never set up the other camera at this location. And luckily I have Jonas for a friend because the file format output is funky, and he goes, oh no, it's super simple. And I got to tell you, I should do a tutorial on how to do it for those that don't want to get that deep into it. It's wicked fast to take that thing and make it into something that's easier to share. But I did that whole tutorial just live in one take, almost no rehearsal, and recorded it all in the OBS.
Next question.
Can we discuss having mics in your shot? Looks like Chris and I have adopted the peekaboo method.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, I'm the only one here apparently today that has the out of shot method, and mine is just below the frame here, and it's in horizontal mode. And what horizontal mode allows you to take the connector, and you don't have to have the right angle connector because it comes off at a right angle. And I put it just below the frame, and it's still just as close to my mouth as the others. A problem with a PR40 like John's using is it's a end address microphone, so you have to have it kind of pointed at your mouth, and you have to be pretty close to it to get a good signal out of it. So that kind of precludes it from being out of the frame and maintaining the framing that we like here on office hours.
Good, Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't mind so much having it peekaboo or fully in the shot. What I do mind is seeing some people on YouTube now have their big MV7s and they're holding them and using them as a hand mic. That's weird.
It's a new thing to just use the SMB7s and as a handheld mic. That is a funny, it's a funny thing to think about there. I will say that taking a radio quality mic and having it between 4 to 8 inches is absolutely the most superior way to have it. It's a physics problem. It's just the closer you get to the mic, if you get too close, you start getting this kind of like, but if you, at a certain distance there, as you move the mic away and out of the frame, and I put the white mic in the frame on purpose to socialize the idea, which we already see by YouTubers, as you can see, is that having the mic in the frame is okay because it sounds better. Right? It always sounds better. It might be, you might say that it's acceptable to have it out of the frame, but it always sounds better when it's in the frame. Next question.
Vic Hernandez from Springfield, Missouri. Following up on culture, did anyone mention Ralph Nader's new book on rebellious CEOs who did the right thing?
No, haven't read it. Don't know. It's probably out of our expertise. Next question.
Alexander Knight from Port Coquitlam, British Columbia, Canada. Editing an ATEM ISO recording in Davinci Resolve, is there a way to select all the clips from a specific camera angle? I sometimes need to make batch edits like zooming in to reframe somebody.
Oh, that's a really good question. I think you can do that. Can you do that in Final Cut, Chris? Can you select all? Yeah, you can do all of them, right?
You can. I'll tell you, and I realize Alexander, you're asking about Resolve, but the unsung hero of the Final Cut world is the timeline index window. It's not normally open. It's a classic example of Apple's progressive disclosure. Timeline index is an absolute crutch in the Final Cut world. I love it.
We'll do a lab about that sometime in the near future. Next question.
Paul Wallace in Austin, he's in Hot Springs, Arkansas now. I went to both Apple stores in Austin yesterday, replaced a cracked case on an iPhone 14 Pro Max. I'm getting a 15, I guess that's a 15 Pro Max. So how can I protect it better, screens and case? And what about the waterproof cases?
I don't use the waterproof cases. I'm using the Peak Design. So I have a Peak Design. Thank you, Osmog. And I have a Peak Design case, and it has a whole bunch of features on it. I snap it on my car. You can put it on tripods. You can do a bunch of other things. It's got an extra. It'll handle inductance and it's magnetic, and it's really cool. And then I don't know which one I put. I have a screen protector on the front of it, so it's in a little cocoon as it goes through there. And so so that's the advantage there. I love it, and I drop my phone all the time. so it's a pretty common thing, and it's still in pristine condition. When I handed my last phone to my wife, it was in perfect condition. And the only problem I have is I gave it to her in the Peak Design setup, and of course she broke the front glass almost immediately. But it was only that front cover, so all I have to do is get her a new cover. Next question.
Michael Patra from Poland asks, can you recommend generative AI software for video animation?
Generative AI software for video. It's Runway. Runway AI is the big one that's, hold on one second. The Runway AI is the one that everybody's using. So that's I want to do we'll probably do a lab in this before this 2-month transition process continues. Next question.
Next question from Jeff Cohen in Miami Beach, Florida. Blackmagic forum follow-up. Looks like they added support to use the Tapatalk app with their forums back in 2012. Guess instead of updating the forums, they just push you to use the app. Anyone using it for this or any other forums?
Yeah, I have used it a little bit, but I just go to the web forums. I found the Tapatalk thing to be weird, so it just bothered me. So anyway, yeah. So that's the problem there. Quick reminder. We of course are going to be talking about the Apple event here in just a second. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the Mix Pre, and we've got some folks from Sound Devices and maybe some experts internally that are going to be there. So should be fun. It's a Mix Pre lab. We're just going to be talking about Mix Pre's and talking about how we use them. Very casual. On Thursday, Robert Green, our own Robert Green, who's in our team, is going to be talking about EVSs. EVSs are amazing, and he uses them every day. So check that out. We're going to be talking about our website and what we want to see on Friday. Of course, Saturday and Sunday are open questions and introspection. So stay tuned for all of those. And now we're going to jump into the second hour. Welcome back to the second hour, and we are now talking about the Apple event. Why are we talking about the Apple event? You're probably wondering. The Apple event, I long ago, 15 years ago, if you go to my YouTube channel, just Alex Lindsay, you'll see it. I put the video up because I found it somewhere. I actually downloaded it from, I don't know, somebody else's site because I had lost it long ago. And it's actually the most viewed video I've ever made, which is a couple million views. And it's because Wired picked it up the day I made it. So Apple had released the 3GS. Hold on, let me see if I can find it really quickly. Apple had released the 3GS, and I was excited about it because I was like, they're going to start making movies with it. Let's see. And I should have had this up before we started. I apologize, but hopefully I made it easy. Yeah, there we go.
Bandwidth for this podcast.
You can hear it. Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com. All right, hold on. So I
Cashfly.
Oh my gosh. Hold on. Sorry, I know that I should understand how to do this in YouTube has a thing on their page that is a little frustrating, is that on the web page I can either go full screen, which will take over my computer, or I can only show it small, and I can't seem to pop it out, which is kind of crazy. All right, let's click here. All right, there we go. So let me pop this up here. So this was the thing that I did, and this is 2009, so 13 or 14 years ago. So this here was, let's see here. I'm going to turn.
We've been thinking about it.
So here you can see. So here I am with a lot more dark hair, but showing this, and this was in our little office, and there's Dylan. Anyway, so this was me cobbling together something, talking about the future of what this was all going to look like. Now, Apple's version of this is much nicer, but this was me just grabbing stuff in the office and trying to imagine, what you're going to be able to do with a 3GS, again, a solid almost 15 years ago. And we could see it then. It wasn't just me. A lot of us could see, eventually you're going to have enough quality to make this actually work. And Apple has arrived 15 years later after all of those things. And I think that one of the things that was really great about their keynote, and by the way, I truly believe that them showing their hardware, the new hardware, was completely useless. They didn't need to do that. They could have just released that with a press release or a short video. I think that they did this specifically I think this was an iPhone event. What we saw with the Apple event was an iPhone event that we that Apple sold us as a hardware event. And so it is we'll look at a little bit of it, and then we'll answer some questions around it. But right click. Okay. Anyway, so so we're going to go through it, and the idea here, what I thought we would do for this, is a little bit more of a lab. Is for us to analyze this, frame by frame of the behind the scenes. So we're not looking at the actual Apple event. We're going to be looking at the behind the scenes here and talk about the different, look at the shots and talk about what we're seeing in the shots. And to the best we can, try to identify, the game is to try to identify every item in there so that people understand what's actually being used for this. Anyway, so we're going to go through it, and I have a good friend that is joining us who already has a video about this, Tyler Stallman. Tyler, can you hear us okay?
I do. I think I'm all set on my side.
Hey, yeah, excellent. So I'm gonna, we're gonna look at this here, and we're gonna try to go through. So Tyler had put up together a great video and put it up on YouTube, and then I was like, we should do a live thing, and we'll just do it in office hours. And Tyler was game. So Tyler, along with everyone here, and it's a little hard for me to see all the bits and pieces that I'm working on. So my recommendation for the panelists, since it's a relatively intimate panel, is just to call things out when you talk about it, or just talk about it. It'll just be a little bit more of a conversation, a little less of, you don't have to raise your hand on the back end. Just say what you want to say while we're talking. So anyway, so let's go ahead and take a look at, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through the behind the scenes, and we're just going to jump to scenes that are mostly that are showing the behind the scenes, and we'll talk about what we're looking at here and trying to give you all the tools that were used for this. So here we go. And Tyler, just go ahead and call things out if you see anything that's specifically interesting to you. I'll point out a couple things that we see here. So this is most likely a Teradek. So that's it's a bolt of some sort. I'm not sure which bolt that is. I think it's one of the bigger bolts. It's not the Ranger, but it is, I think, their 3,000 bolt or 5,000 bolt or whatever. So that's most likely a receiver that's sitting here. We've used these in the past for some of those bits and pieces there. This is a Technocrane. And so that Technocrane, of course, the big thing about it that is not similar to a jib is that it can extend out. So you can extend the shot, you can go straight out, and that's why all these loops are here, is because you are it gives it that's the slack it needs, so that it can kind of push out on the end. And we identified this during the show, and I can't remember the name of that head. Does anyone remember the head? We had talked about it during the show. I had figured out what it was, but maybe someone can throw that in there. We'll see that head a couple times because it's been popped up. And of course, there's a teleprompter here. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Prompter People teleprompter attached to that head, but I don't know for sure what prompter they used. I don't know what these lights are. I believe that those are. Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
I saw a few people call out that they're Sky Panelists.
Sky Panels.
60Cs.
Aries,
probably.
yeah.
That was just
Aries
other
Sky
DPs with DOP choice snap grids on the front of them.
Very good. And then this is just a big rail that they've used to just kind of mount everything. This is, I believe, is a Fisher dolly that I think that they use I saw it in a couple different places. And the Fisher dolly just has a lot of articulation, and it's just really beefy as far as what it needs there. I think that's pretty much everything. Here's another Sky panel over here. This is I believe that this is the entrance. This entrance here is the one that is kind of facing the same direction as the store. It's kind of down the road a little bit from the store, but it's I think where a lot of the buses go in and out. So anyway, but that's where they did this. So this is actually a physical location.
Having attended Apple events, this is where I've entered the building each time. It's I think it's the most public entrance. It's where it's on that street, and the store is just up the street, right? It's on Tantal, right? And the store is just right up I think cat a corner to it. Well, and there's one other thing. You can only see it, the strings on the sides here, the cables, but there is a big light cloud above him as well that's kind of filling the overall area. But part of the challenge of this whole BTS video is that they show different, they didn't edit it into the way that we would want to break it down. So later on, you do see that they're floating a really big fill up above that's just lifting the area, because obviously those Sky panels aren't going to do a whole lot to the staircase or anything.
And is that an Airstar, do you think?
I don't know the brand. No, I couldn't tell from it.
The one that we've used,
the
one we've used the most is an Airstar. Is the one that is I used to have a bunch of them. So I'm particularly sensitive to it. Yeah, go ahead, Courtney.
I noticed that the reason that you normally don't put Sky panels, you don't normally put your lights on a Chapman or a Fisher dolly. I think because it was the spooky thing. They rolled those in. They had the overhead light on, and they had him enter in kind of silhouette. And they rolled those lights in to bring them up, rather than, because they also were moving the camera in on a crane, since they didn't have the ability to zoom very much on that on the iPhone. So that's why the Techno crane is extending out. The arm is extending out toward him as he comes in, and they're rolling those fill lights in on either side, since they had to be moving to make that one shot work, to go from spooky to well illuminated.
Yeah, that was actually one of the most exciting things to see, is how much dolly work there was on the lighting. You can sometimes it gives itself away, but they are doing, it seems like they're actually doing it constantly. Like every large light is in movement throughout a lot of these shots, which makes sense. But, seeing the reality of how they're doing it was really interesting to me.
Yeah. And a lot of times, putting things, doing this kind of thing, when you can put it on a dolly, one of the big advantages is that it just gives you some, when you put the lights, anything you can put on that you can articulate means that you'll get more creative, because you can make those decisions in real time. It's not like, everybody has to go to coffee while we have the lighting crew rebuild this, rebuild whatever we're doing. You can simply, like in this dolly with that light, you can do it during the shot. But the other thing that's important is you can tune it while you're working. So you can go, we don't, we need to, we can move it in a little bit closer, move it away, move it up, move it down, and we can figure out exactly what we want, because we can have it. That's one of the reasons it's so important to have a grid a lot of times in your studio, is because there's a lot of decisions you will not make if it's hard. And so by making it easy, I think that it definitely moves that forward. So let's go back to this shot here. And I will remember what that head is. I have not used that head, but I have. I mean, I think I did actually.
A space cam?
Yeah, I think it might be a space cam.
Or a sparrow head, maybe a sparrow head.
I think it's a space cam. Hold on.
It does have pitch and roll.
I actually did a segment that I don't think that, it's the MV, it's the M7, Space Cam M7 Evo. That is the one. Yeah, and I actually did a segment that I don't think I released at NAB about it. That's why I was like, I've seen that before. Okay, so we've got that. And Tyler, you identified who the manufacturer. That's a for the case.
So one thing that was really interesting to me about this is made by Beast Grip. It hasn't been released still, even today. Obviously they have them ready. I'm not sure why they're not available for sale yet. But what was so surprising is at the very end of this whole video, it says special thank you to Beast Grip and someone else is Blackmagic are called out by name towards the end of this commercial or this spot, which was just surprising to me that Apple would give special attention to anyone. So
my guess is that
together.
My guess is number one is probably Blackmagic gave Apple engineers to work on the camera. A lot of times what ends up happening is you get into one of these productions and you're working with the production company or you're working with a software manufacturer, and I've done this a lot in production. You get into a partnership with them, and you see us do this with Zoom and with other folks. We give them tons and tons of feedback, and we're like, hey, we need this, and we hope to get accelerated. In this case, they probably needed updates almost every day. So they're asking Blackmagic for a software that's is updating it, and probably with Beast Grip probably handed engineers to Apple. Then Apple said, well, we need a case that does this, and we needed to have this, and we needed to have this, and they just kept on probably sitting there with a CNC mill machining out these things for Apple until Apple had exactly what it wanted. And probably for that extra effort, they got a little bit of with everybody else, they probably bought what they needed, and in this case, they were getting custom development, and that's not particularly unusual. In the process of when you're a big company or you're working on something that's high profile to get some custom support, because it's a really huge opportunity, obviously for Beast Grip and for Blackmagic to refine what they're doing. Now we've got some kind of cheese plate down here along with the with the rails to put. I have a feeling that a lot of times this was going out to some kind of breakout, and I'd like to figure out what that breakout is, but it's not like that's going to the, that's not a single output. That's going to some kind of box, which we can do now. Oops, sorry, I'm going too fast. All right, let's back up here. So this also, I think people have asked whether this set is real or not. Now, it may be just a set, but it is a real set. Like I think people have wondered if these labs are real. Like, are they in green screen or is it a lab? And now we know that they're building these on sets, which would be what Apple would do. Again, you see the Technocrane here, the same Evo, the M7 Evo here. Then you can see the teleprompter. I don't see any logos on the teleprompter.
I would love to see how they mounted that teleprompter, because those lenses on the iPhone are pretty wide. And to get the teleprompter from cropping, because the monitor, has to be out in front of the phone.
I think,
and the glasses are 45 degrees, so
I think that you could get that. I mean,
they must have had to put the phone right on top of the glass, right up back against the glass.
Yeah, but I also think that you can almost see. I can't quite make it out. You can almost see the logo on the side of that. There, I'm still not certain. It does look a little beefier than an average prompter people one.
Yeah, it looks like about a 21-inch.
Yeah, I want to say it almost looks like an auto cue, but I don't think that's the name that I see there. So it's not their logo. But you can see like a lot of area back here. But I think that this is probably on a this is on rails, and the phone has 1x3 or 1x. Or is it 3x 5x?
So if they're on the tighter version of the lens.
Yeah, and if this is so I think you could get through the glass there.
One of the features of the B script is to be able to mount additional glass. You don't think they're putting more lenses in front of the phone?
They do in some other places. Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
I'm pretty certain this is all 24. Obviously I don't know this, but I think they're on the 1x lens with no modifications throughout it.
Oh, right, because that's going to give you the highest resolution, right? You're going to get the 48.
Yeah, I mean, the sensor is it's night and day difference. You would see the difference on the 3x or on the 0.5. They're not the same sensor. They can't keep up. You can also spot throughout the video anytime that they show the interface. It's always at 24 as well. And I also just don't think they'd be using any third-party lenses, because that does defeat some of that purism of like, this is shot on iPhone. Like adding the lens is already there from Apple's perspective. Like their message is like, we've provided you with the lenses you need.
I saw a lens on it, but maybe not.
I didn't notice any, but.
And then you can see this is the control. You can see this is the controller, and I believe that's the controller for the arm. That's what he's controlling there, I believe, for that shot, because that doesn't look like a focus pull. Here you have. Is that a Steadicam? It doesn't. It looks like he's.
It's close to the person he's operating.
I don't think it is though. I don't. It doesn't look like a Steadicam. Like it doesn't. This part here is that's not a standard Steadicam rig. To be complete, we have a.
So he's guiding a jib, maybe.
I'm confused here. Yeah, I think he's guiding a jib. I think he's guiding some kind of controller here. I don't think he's. And I think Steadicam with a teleprompter can be hard, but the way he's holding it is not a steady. Like there's nothing about that calls out Steadicam.
He may just be pulling focus with that right hand, because they have to manually pull focus.
Yeah, you can see it right. You can see more rigging like over here.
I think it's on the crane on a chap.
Yeah, it's on a crane.
You can see it down at the bottom there, supporting it.
See the light on a junior stand over here. That's what that is. All right, let's see here. And are we thinking, this is some kind of, there's something about when they build sets that feel like sets. There's something about this wall that doesn't feel like, doesn't feel real. Like it feels like there's a four wall. They that's
also,
put up somewhere.
They put in a low ceiling on purpose, I think. So they went to a lot of trouble to put that drop ceiling in there.
Yeah, there's something about, so the other thing about the drop ceiling is, see the seams here and here? That's unusual for a drop ceiling. If it was permanent, it's very usual if you just drop drywall.
It's probably rolls of muslin is what it is.
It could be, but it could be just drywall that's been spackled. It's actually remarkable that Apple even let that occur, for that, and they might have painted it out later. There you go. You can see the set. There you go. So if you're wondering how these sets look when they're it's all a set. So you build out the area that you want, and then you have the whole set in here. And the reason you're probably wondering, why do you build out some of the exterior? You might use it, but also you need to see it at angles through the windows. So when you need to see some of that hit there. and they may be using it for exteriors in a couple places, but wow, look at the infrastructure there. I'm sorry, I don't usually see that with that kind of thing, but anyway, yeah, so and this is how most of your movies are shot. Is like a is that there? Let's see here.
Yeah,
but there's a lot.
There's a translite outside that far window too, which is the backdrop.
So here's our little kit in here. 15. I just want to point out 15 millimeter rails, or I'm sorry, 19 millimeter rails, not 15 millimeter rails. All of our, like a lot of my stuff, I got kind of into the smaller rail systems with small rig and everything else. These are the full sized versions of those.
I wonder how much they directly swapped in and out from the last event shoot. You know, how much this is like, okay, just pop off the Alexa and put the iPhone in its place.
I bet you they try to stay as close as they could to it, but they definitely had, filmmakers there. Now this is the little, so this is how you get these all attached. Is this little attachment here is your rail attachment system. That actually looks like the small rig version of that, but they're all kind of cheese plate, kind of little mini cheese plates that you put on. And
it's like a lens support bridge that they've just added a little. Custom engineering too. Yeah,
it's not even. I don't think it's custom engineering. I think it's just screwed in here, and this is like the mount here. This piece, I know that Small Rig makes because I own like 4 of them. So I don't know if that's a Small Rig one or not, but it's definitely something that I'm very familiar with. Can't quite out. I always look for like logos, but this is just the mount across the bottom here.
You can see the B-script mount in this one as well. Or sorry, B-script logo.
Yeah, up and top. Yeah. No, this is.
Which I find it surprising, really, how they didn't tape anything over, they didn't blur anything out. There's nothing. I mean, they just kind of let all these logos fly.
I feel like one of the reasons we're doing this show right now, which might get blocked anyway, but is because the idea is to sell. I mean, I'll tell you, people ask why did Apple do this. For the event that I did yesterday, I had a request of, if I'm delivering footage for you for this event from an iPhone 15, what are the specs? That would not have happened if Apple hadn't done this event. Like, this is a film company, saying, like, what do I need to do to deliver that? So now we can get a better idea of the rig here. Unfortunately, it's all motion blurred. Okay, so we have an AJA. That's HDMI to SDI, right? So somewhere in here, we're poking an HDMI. This is either going straight in, but most likely not. There's probably a lot more going on here. This box is probably holding some kind of bridge, so it's some kind of breakout. So it's I don't know whether it's OWC or somebody else, but it's a USB-C to an HDMI out and an Ethernet out and a bunch of USB outs and all those other things is my guess. I don't know what this little okay, so they bought a right angle instead of getting a right angle USB
right angle C,
or I would not do that, to be honest.
My guess, so there's a close up of it in other parts, and I think that they use the right angle because, although maybe I'm doubting it from this side, from the other side, I had thought it's because they were using their expensive $130 Thunderbolt Apple cable. That was like my guess. They're we want to use our good cable, and so we'll adapt it instead. But now there seems to be more logo. I don't know what that logo is actually, so maybe I second guess that.
It may not have fit inside the teleprompter hood if it went straight out to the cable.
Well, no, I understand the right angle, but I have lots of right angles that aren't. Don't
look like that. Yeah.
I like cables that are. I don't like cables that are, and that would be the wrong one because it wants to go right angle on direction. But I don't like right angles. I don't like right angled converters, I guess is what I would say. Then it's sitting on top of a Ronin. So this is the Ronin. I think this is the 3, the RC3. I think is what that
small rig drive holder up on top there.
Oh yeah, you can see the logo.
There's a little hard drive, and it has the pink tape is probably the camera department, so they can keep track of which card it is.
Yep.
And they do show gimbal logos at a few different points. So there's an RS3 Pro in play, which I kind of think that's what this one is. And then there's also like the R2 is on the Dolly, which I think is a bigger setup.
Tyler, your comment about blurring out the logos, I do a lot of that. Sometimes I just think it's ridiculous. Some of the stuff that I had somebody blur out a Coke logo, and it was clearly out of the the depth of field anyway. It was ridiculous. Yeah. But I mean, what's the point of doing a behind the scenes if you're going to disguise everything, right?
Sure. I don't know what I'm glad they did.
So here's a little. I don't know what that is.
Some kind of converter. It looks like
it's a
SDI.
LEMO, like a little LEMO.
Yeah, it's got
battery breakout.
Oh, maybe it's a LEMO BDA, battery distribution.
It's not being used right now.
Battery distribution box for power over LEMO. But you don't have to blur the logos if it's not going to be on commercial television.
Well, and no one's going to complain about no one in this thing is going to be complaining about it. Oh, here's a tentacle. So that's how that's their time code. So that's the tentacle there. What is that going into?
Right, which a lot of people are asking about what audio system they used. Is that a hint that maybe they're using the whole tentacle audio system as well, or are they just using the time code?
No, I think they're just injecting time code into the mic input somehow on the iPhone, so they can have a reference on the audio.
In a perfect situation with this, you would, I mean, if they're using, I'm sure they're using dual systems, so they're recording the audio separately. They're injecting they could fill the whole thing with time code, but they could also, the way I try to do it is always have right is time code, left is NAT, whatever the camera's picking up. That way, just I can double check my sync. If there's anything goes wrong with the time code, having audio actually on the camera is super useful. Here, I think we can see. Right here is the breakout. Like that's what and I just don't know. I can't identify who makes that one, but I'm sure we could figure it out. There's not that many people who make it, and Apple's only going to use certain ones. They're going to use an Anchor or a OWC or there's only a handful of them that we could probably figure out what that is, but I don't know which one it is. But that's what that cable is going into, and then being broken out into all these things here. This is an Ethernet, I believe. This is an Ethernet connection. It's an Ethernet adapter, I believe. Yeah. So there's your Ethernet connection. There's a lot of stuff going on in these things. Okay, so here we see.
Could have used a tentacle with Bluetooth connection and gone in with Bluetooth audio into the.
I would always do hardware if I could.
Well, the problem is if you're running the Blackmagic app and they're pulling HDMI video out to record, where would you get your input to the iPhone for audio input?
You could do it with an audio interface into a USB-C into that hub.
Yeah,
that was there.
When you run to a hub
out the USB-C as audio input.
As long as the hub is powered, if the hub is receiving its own power, which obviously they're doing, you can send back and forth. So you can have audio interfaces. You can have,
and literally that's just a USB. That'd be like a USB cable to headset, like a TRRS to USB-C.
Yeah, for the tentacle to go into.
Yeah.
And a lot of those tentacles have a built-in microphone for a reference track anyway. So if in case you're tying up the audio input with your tentacle, then you still have an open mic that you can use as a reference track.
As you can see, a very well-used space cam. Wasn't brand new. It's hit a couple things a couple times. Typically, that's from the gear that they put on the front of it. They turn it because of all these axes, you can turn it. This inner axis can spin this way, and then it allows it to spin that way as well. And then this one lets it spin the other way, and so it's easy to run things into other things. That's what you're seeing there. There's that little right angle. We got to figure out. I don't know what right angle version that is, but we're going to have to figure it out. Not for any reason other than, okay, so here's all Blackmagic. So we see Resolve in the background. What monitor are they? I don't know. This monitor, I don't know what that is. I can't quite
Looks like a Sony.
It actually doesn't look like a Sony. These aren't the right buttons for a Sony. They're too small. Sony doesn't make buttons that small. But I don't, we'd have to look a little closer on that one to see if we can figure. Let's see here. And earlier I missed. I'm going to try to keep this open here, but when we were talking about the arm earlier, it was a Mickey thinks it was a bazooka on a Chapman, which I think makes sense. And then these are all the Blackmagic control panels. for what he's doing there. So there's not much in this shot that we need to worry about. Let's see here. Let me get this back to the front here. All right, let's go. Sorry. Let's see. He's chatting. Let's go. All right, see if we find anything new here.
Oh, here, what's interesting to me is what's going on outside that window.
Yeah. What is going on outside that window?
I don't really know.
Yeah, I was gonna try to get my brother into here because he'll know what all that stuff is that's happening outside that window, and I don't know for sure. That looks like a mirror. Obviously they're covering stuff up there, but I can tell you one thing that's happening inside that is coffee. Coffee is happening on the other side. I think that's just some random stuff out there, and most likely the plastic is literally just for dust.
I mean,
I don't know. That kind of looks like a desktop image on a large monitor from a computer.
No, I think that's a window. I think that just happened.
I mean, outside the window,
maybe.
What I find most interesting about all this is like what's kind of hidden in like what they forgot to kind of paint over or do something to, and how when the real behind the scenes comes through. So this morning did you guys notice that they posted the full video the night of the event and then pulled it down off of YouTube, then reposted it the next morning. And that's what we're watching right now. We're reviewing the replaced one. So I was wondering if they had hidden something, and I went through frame by frame, the version they pulled down and the new one, and I couldn't spot anything. I was really hoping I'd be able to come up with like here's the secrets Apple doesn't want you to know, but they appeared to be identical.
Maybe they got a YouTube strike against themselves.
Right, yeah.
They got pulled down.
And by the way, Robert Lickram says that it's a Panasonic, that monitor that we were looking at before. And Scott Tupper said maybe a Flanders. So, and then James Callahan thinks that these are Army 90-degree right angle USB-C. Let's see if that looks like the right one here. Hold on. He's asking, is that the one? It's kind of the lab. If I can keep the comments up, I can, it makes it easier. Right angle. I don't know if it looks quite like that. It's got kind of an interesting front head to it that I'm not sure if that's the, let's see. I don't think that that's the one. At least, let's see. Trying to look at the front of it. Because all we can see is the front of it. I don't think that's it. It looks like a really nice one. I'm going to probably buy one of those, but I don't think it's a 40 gig right angle. It's really nice. Anyway, all right. So let's go back to our regularly scheduled program. It does look like I guess mounting this was a pretty big deal. Now this is by the way, this is I believe a small rig battery, one of the 99s. That looks like a 99 small rig battery.
You don't think? Could be. I mean, in other ones, you can really see that they're using multiple Anton Bowers. There's some shots where there's two mounted. Well, there's one mounted to the side, which we're looking at there, and then there's one mounted on the back as well.
Oh, okay. So
this shot doesn't make it as clear, but later you can see logos as well.
All right. Oh, and then you can also see. For a lot of us, you choice of wristband. So there's your access wristband for that camera operator. So that usually tells you that they shot it probably during the shoot, but they it's not like they built a new shoot to show behind the scenes, because you probably wouldn't keep the wristband there. But I collect those wristbands. I don't during a 3 or 4 day shoot, I won't take any of the wristbands off, because if they don't get my name on another day, I can always show the other 5 and go, really, I was here for 5 days and I can't get into this one. It's helpful. All right. So do we think that's an RS2?
Yeah, we get a clean shot of it coming up.
Okay.
If you, I wouldn't stay on this one too long. You get a really clear shot in a minute.
Okay, so we'll come back to that one. So here's the premiere shot here, with some obviously some Apple monitors, and a laptop in the front, because of course you would use a laptop instead of a Mac Pro.
And no mouse or keyboard.
And no mouse and keyboard. I feel like that's such a weird, weird design decision for this. I guess because you're talking about laptops, you're not talking about Mac Pros, and so I guess they're going to show you could do this all with your laptop, but no one ever would. No one would do this. Maybe somebody would. I don't know who would do that. We can ask, but no one would do that. Like you'd have a Mac Pro or a Mac Studio and you'd be editing with, but that's not what they were showing here. I don't know what the speakers are. I wish I did. This kind of stuff, by the way, when I used to do studios would drive me crazy. That one panel that's a little darker than the other ones. If I had a studio like that and I looked at it every time I walked in, and I was like, I got to replace that panel. All right, let's. I don't know who okay, we're going to get really geeky. I don't know who makes these. That's the beefiest monitor, like DIT setup I've ever seen. Yeah, I don't, but I'm not sure who does that. Hold on, I got this thing backwards here. Let's see here. Sorry, my mouse is a little bit funky here. I'll try to keep that one open. So
it could be custom machined and engineered.
Setso, or is that a Betso, right? A Betso smart slate. Oops, sorry, my thing's still up there. So Betso, and Betso is not one that I'm familiar with. It looks nice.
That's a new one. Yeah, they're relatively new, and I like the pixelated numbers is instead of 7-segment or 24-segment displays. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very pretty looking slate. They're really into these. This is that Chapman dolly back here with this huge rig, and this is what you were talking about earlier. Tyler, the you had the egg crates on there.
Like snap grids, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, good form there with the one-handed thing, and then I have a pet peeve about slates. I don't know how long he held it there, but when people snap the slate and then move it while they're like closing it, it's a pet peeve of mine. Like. It's all. I actually when we
this shoots, one does have strobe LEDs when the sticks hit. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
There.
That's nice.
So that gives you a definite sync mark, even if the sticks are moving.
Yeah, it drives me crazy. Like when I shoot, you have to wait for me to pull sticks, and I just do that to stop someone from doing that. And so I just, I'll be like mark it, and then I'll say pull slate.
I like that strobe though.
The strobe is a really nice addition. Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely see this is like a faux set. Like it's got the little like painterly, we made this look rough, even though, like it's not, Apple would never, ever have a set. I mean, never have an actual office with the edges looking that rough. Just saying, like that would never happen at Apple.
Yeah, the spaces between the panels are not identical.
Well, it's just that they're rough. It's like someone painted in, like, we're going to make it look industrial, and that's just not what Apple would do there. So to get geeky again, I don't know who makes this. Who makes that there? It's just a rig, but I'm just, just saying.
Cheese plate with 3/4 and
yeah, but it's somebody, obviously if it's machined, somebody's making it. I just don't know who. I don't know who that is. It almost looks like a dove plate, but I don't think it is. I don't think it's a dove plate.
I think it is it's a base
dove plate.
Yeah. But I don't know why it would have 1/4 and 3/8 mounted on the end of it.
We'll do some research there. Wow, there's so much to talk about here.
Yeah, there's a lot in these.
Yeah, so this one's heavy. So we think these are sky panels, probably there. These, I don't know. We're gonna have to do some more research on these monitors. I don't know. It does look like they might have. This one looks like it might have gotten gaffed off. Somebody didn't give them. No, maybe not. There's maybe it's Flanders down here. Does it? I don't. I'll have to look at that.
I think it might be a Flanders, but I'm not sure what that handle is at the top.
Yeah. I don't know what monitors they're using here. I'm not as good at production monitors as others. Definitely looks like a Wacom tablet. This is a Wacom tablet. that's there. It does look like these look like kind of like Stream Decks, but they're cut off somehow. I don't know exactly what's going on. It looks like he's got one here and one here, but I don't know what those are. These are Blackmagic recorder. Oh, that is a Teranex. So that's a Teranex converter that's there. And this is your Mac Pro. Anything else that we can see in there? Another one of these handled. Question is, who can find the handled monitor first in our viewership? Let us know what they think that actually is.
Good choice for AI that does image recognition.
Exactly. We need to throw one of those into Google and ask, like, what is that? Here you can see, I don't know what they're doing with this other than, I guess, stabilizing it. Is that what they're...
Oh, I think that's, you see in other shots that is a sort of a backstage fluorescent. Like I think they're just it was lighting up the camera card.
Oh, it is.
In the previous one. So I think it's for the crew or for BTS. And it's just off to the side.
And then this is interesting that I think this is important. They're basically just cartoning off the, all this production, this GAC. I think a lot of people don't, I think that's what they're doing here. I think a lot of people don't do that, and I think it's always a mistake. I always try to keep as much for the actors away from them, like so that they don't see anybody moving around.
That doesn't look like a standard floppy, 16 by black.
No, we use
usually what
curtains.
They use.
No, I use curtains.
Well,
but because curtains are so much nicer.
Curtains don't come off the grip truck.
Yeah, that's why. Here's the funny thing: is that's why I use curtains, is because they don't come off the grip truck, and I get to. What happens after if you go to a client and you elevate it a little bit, and you use things that don't come off the grip truck, the client will look down on everybody after you. It's a really funny effect.
It looks like it's vinyl. It looks like vinyl because it's got kind of a sheen to it.
I think it's vinyl on the back side, and I think it's felt on the front side, but we'll see. By the way, Mickey pointed out that's a small HD Cine 24. So that's what. That's what
the mystery monitor is.
The mystery monitor is a small HD. We still don't know what this one is, although
it controls at the top. That's
the logo says to me it wants to be I keep on wanting to make it Flanders because I always think that's what you use there. But so here's our. So we have our space
cam head mounted on the
a beautifully machined base. That makes me so happy looking at it. And then. It looks like a battery on the back that is in between it is, and I actually think this might actually be a Ranger that's there. The Ranger has a couple different options for these antennas, and you can package it. You can sandwich it. You can sandwich it in between the battery and the camera, or the battery in this case, the camera set.
Also, those are lead counterweights or some type of steel counterweights for the prompter on the bottom down there. Yeah.
Oh, in the back.
You have to balance that out. The weight of that prompter, which is a pretty good sized prompter on that head, has to be balanced. So.
And you can see it's on a Chapman here because you can see the handle here. The Chapman's got a cool thing. It's got like this pneumatic thing that you can kind of let it go and for bringing things up and down, which makes it great. I think it's just hard to get into this little kit to figure out everything they put into there. I do think it's interesting that on the last one that we showed, they didn't put gaff tape over the logo, but they did on this one. So see, this is there's gaff tape there, and there wasn't on the other one. I think it was farther away. I think they identified it and decided they didn't want to show it. I actually think that one specifically looks like an iCan, the iCan 12-inch that I have a couple of. What is that keyboard? Space? Oh, that's the Space Cam controller. So this is the head of the controller there.
The operator's console.
Yeah, that's the operator's console. It looks cool. Don't know what monitor that is. It could be the same one there that we saw. There's no handle on it though.
What's the logo at the top center? Split up.
I can't read it.
Something. I can't see it either. I don't have a big enough monitor.
No, I think that's time code. I think that's in the screen.
It is? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's the viewfinder. Just
this guy's looking up. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, so there you have. So
that's back outdoors in front of the building, right?
Yeah. So that's what Tyler was talking about, is getting a better angle of. You can see both of these lights, and again, you can animate those. But the biggest reason I would put those lights onto Chapmans like that, I mean, if you have the money, is because you can move them quickly. You can say, I want to do another setup, I want to make some adjustments, I want to do something else, and you can super quickly get them to where they need to be. And that's a really, in production, when you have 50 people standing there, time is actually money. I think it's actually equals time, actually equals money.
Well, and there's some other shots where you can see them doing like effects with them, where they pull back and fade them at the same time for this lights coming down look, where they're actually using it to, visually emphasize.
Right.
So like it's a bit of technique as well, and some other ones.
One little tip here is that whatever teleprompter we're using, it's got a light on the front, so it might make it easier for us to find it. Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
I noticed that at 132, you can actually see clearly the back of those sky panels, and I'm not familiar enough with them to know what there is, but you can really see the lights in full in daylight.
This, by the way, answers the question of, are they standing in front of a LED wall?
Yeah, that is an LED wall, but I think it's on the stage. It is on the stage.
Oh, yeah.
Location. Yeah.
But I'm saying, I bet you that they do it all the time that way. So here's your drone footage. I don't think I can make out much.
Notice there's no smoke in that scene. Shot. So that's where they added all the smoke was CGI. Yeah.
I think they did that rainbow thing for Lady Gaga, and I don't know if they've ever taken it away. Oh, I see. You're getting nervous. See, so that right there.
That's a set, yeah.
But what? See the little move that they did? Yeah. How long would that take if those were on stands?
Well, you can get stands on wheels, but they'd be very noisy. That's the problem. They're on dollies because they can move silently.
Two of them together, like it's just to be able to move it. It's just so fast. Yeah. Sorry, it's just. But that's why you can adjust things just so much faster for something that. Okay, so is this what you were talking about, Tyler, or is it?
Yeah, this is when we get the clear shot. Okay. You can see a logo somewhere.
Of which part? The
gimbal.
That gimbal.
Trying to look at it on my screen too. I can see it more clearly.
Well, that gimbal is that's a 2 or 3, right? RS2 or RS3.
Yeah, that one.
And then this one is the space cam.
That's the space cam.
Oh yeah, this is 3. You can see RS3 on the logos in there.
Oops, hold on. Did I get that? I got lost in my playback. Hold on. Yeah, RS3.
Oh, you know what else you can see here? They're not centering. In others, you can see that they're centering to the main lens. And here, it's actually off center from they just let it be. They let it be the center be weight based instead of camera based.
A little parallax there too. There you can see the hard drive on the top.
Also, those are
this is a counterweight.
Those are lacy drives.
They didn't shoot this in dimensional video, did they? They just shot it flat, right?
I think they shot this one flat, although they could have. It'd be really interesting.
Well, I don't think they can use the lidar with the.
So this is not a sky panel.
Oh, that's the overhead.
I don't know who makes that light, but this is a big pillow light. So it's, I believe, because you can see the wires here. So these lights are actually, I mean, when we do this, we fill them with when we do the air stars, and this might be an air star, it could be, we fill them with actual helium. Like we actually fill them with helium and they float.
Either that or they went to Costco and got one of those inflatable mattresses and threw some LEDs inside.
Yeah, but I think that one. But I think so. What happens is these wires hold it in place, and you can tighten them to kind of place them. And one of the wires has a pump that's constantly pushing helium into it. Yeah, you're going to say something, Tyler?
Yeah, if you fast forward to 131, it just might be a good moment because they really clearly show it in daylight, so you can kind of identify everything in it. I know it's jumping ahead, but it's probably where you'll be able to identify that one.
I think this is a little hard because now we're going to have to come back to it. I don't even know.
Oh, you can't see the time code? Oh, okay. There.
I can't.
Yeah.
No. Oh, there. Oh.
No, more. There's a clearer shot right before the dolly.
Oh.
There.
Oh, there we go. Oh, they're hanging it. Okay, never mind. Oh.
Yeah. So it's not in a helium film. It's just something the grip's rigged, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big old, this is just a construction crane. Just a construction crane with a lot of safety and a lot of insurance there.
Those are the wires.
That light directly over top of, right over to, nothing like taking the CEO of the company and putting a giant thing that could kill him over top of him. It's
it happens all the time.
I know. It's just, I'm just saying, I'm just saying. Let's see if we missed anything.
What about that
small HD? Let's see. There's a pile of LC batteries. Let's see. Okay.
That's their back.
Okay, so let's back up here. This is where we were. All right. I don't know who makes that drone. There's a logo here on at least the propeller.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Is it an octocopter?
No, it's a quad, I think. Well, it is octa technically, but it's above and below.
It's above below octo, yeah. Over under.
Makes that. And it's this is, I think, typically it's a first person, I don't know.
Well, it's got a first person camera on it for the pilot, yeah.
Now this one is interesting because they didn't put all the heavy rigging that they had before. I don't know who makes this down here. It looks very nice. I mean, it looks kind of like a small rig. I think they make some of these ball heads.
Ball
it's a ball head, but I mean, it's a nice ball head. I mean, there's a lot of different levels of quality on ball heads. I can say and this one's what's nice about this one is the big handle and the spring loaded.
Kind of reminds me of the wooden camera one.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. I think that might be a wooden camera one. And this is a really nice interface up here. So, I mean, ball heads there are lots of ball heads, but they are definitely not all created equally. There's your Ethernet here.
Double Dragon. What the heck is
There's some glyph here. They call it the Double Dragon. Let's see here. We are not going to get to the end of this. There's HDR log. These guys talk about how great it is. We've already talked about that. There's the app. There's
the right angle.
And it's interesting to see like the ISO is at 55. I didn't even know it went down that low. It's an interesting color choice, 3720. And then look at how hard they're pushing the tint on it, which I think is interesting. I don't usually do that. Let's see here. Wacom. I'm trying to get better at Wacom tablet. Who makes this console? This is what we saw before, but I can't quite make out that's an item I don't know. I don't know that item either. This is our small HD. Still don't know who makes this one. Although I feel like we should be able to find that logo there. Maybe Flanders. I keep on wanting to go back to Flanders. Even if it's not a Simpsons show. This is the shot that had me just go, what are they doing? The follow focus. I was like, they hooked a follow focus. Now, I think that I don't know if Tyler, is that publicly available yet?
Does it work? That was
that's
I got
Tilta.
Probably the most. Yeah, I got the most questions about this. Yeah, it's just a Tilta Nucleus M, I guess. But
I got a picture.
I saw mixed comments on whether it's working yet.
Some people have said it works fine. And,
I mean, I think because a lot of the comments were like, "Why are they doing this?" Because these aren't people in production, and
right.
I think they didn't fake this shot. I think this is only included if they're actually using it. And it completely makes sense that they'd be pulling focus, even though, I'm sure autofocus works great on an iPhone, but
not if it's using lidar and you're using a teleprompter in front of it.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's going into a 45 piece of reflective glass.
Yeah, and Adrian Watkins says it's it said only Tilta Nucleus M and Nano 1 are supported, Nano 2 hopefully later this year. So I guess the thing there, but yeah.
That's a pretty shot.
Yeah.
Of the lens. That probably came from an iPhone commercial, the 15 commercial. They cut that in.
And I think that Mickey said something is a 40 by 40 butterfly, but I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's I don't know what that's referring to. Mickey, put that
the
back
overhead.
in. Oh, the overhead might be a 40. Tell me what you meant by that. There's the dolly doing the big move.
Tally Grip's about to have his crescent wrench fly out of his pocket.
Yeah. There's the premiere shot. We're still upset about that.
Yeah.
And a laptop, that doesn't make any sense. You would not do that on a laptop. It's weird.
Running Premiere on an Apple laptop.
Well, it's also interesting because like this is clearly not her edit station. Like where they're so like they set it back up and cracked open Premiere.
Yeah, they didn't definitely
show
do
the
it by accident. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Mickey said the flown diffusion is in the exterior is a butterfly with a grid and skirted. That's what. There you go. Oh, and that's it. Oh man, did we make it? We actually got to the end of this thing.
I'm sure there's 1,000 details we missed.
Yeah, but it's good. Yeah, a lot of fun stuff there.
I can see a monitor logo. The center one that they're using in the Davinci suite is a TriMaster EL 4K. You can see there's at 150 you can clearly see it. I just see a little bit more when I'm watching on YouTube. I can see more through this live stream here. So
let's see if we next time we'll do it with time code so you can call it out.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've done this, so but I do think that you're right. It's a TriMaster. That makes more sense. With an Apple one, of course, because of course that's what you would do. Cool. That was good. It's important, when we see one of the things that we're doing this with the Apple one, but I want to take more behind the scenes of just movies and everything else and do what we did here, because I think that there's so much you can learn about how people are doing this. And it's one of the things that we learn, that I learn when I'm on sets, is you see all these little things that people are using and wacky ways that they're doing it. The idea is to hopefully absorb as much as you possibly can. You were going to say something, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm just really grateful that Apple did this kind of behind the scenes that actually was relatively open and more focused on the technical. I find there's so much fluffy behind the scenes these days. It's hard to find, a movie that really gave you a breakdown of the gear, and like there's less and less of those detailed BTS that aren't just interviewing actors, So I was really grateful to see so much in a relatively short clip.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And
I
think
Apple almost never does behind the scenes because the NDAs are so tight that they don't ever want that stuff anywhere edited anywhere, et cetera, et cetera.
And you can see, this is what a production with an iPhone looks like when you have all the money. Because Apple's not like, there's nothing, there was no time on this shoot where someone said, how much is that going to cost?
Yeah.
Like there was it was all like, they might ask, but just so they could write the check, but they're not asking like, can we make that less expensive or whatever? In this case, it was like, whatever you need to do to make this a great, this has got to feel real. Yeah. What were we going to say, Tyler?
Have you guys done anything with the iPhone yet? Like what's your feeling working with the Apple Log and Blackmagic workflow? Have you tried it for anything significant yet, or just
I haven't done anything for significant. I've been doing tests with it. Man, do I love it. Like it's really, I just shot stuff with my kids, but I was kind of amazed at what I could shoot and what I could then go back and take into Resolve and fix. And it was.
Well, it's just before starting this stream. So I'm doing the iPhone right now, and I was going to just do like the continuity cam. Yeah. And then instead I ran it through the HDMI out. So this is the Apple Log with a LUT on top of it, clean feed HDMI out. And I'm just like, this is night and day. This does not look the same as what the iPhone look is gone. We can do something real now. Yeah. I'm actually really quite shocked what they're able to get out of that Apple Log, because it looks better than a sensor that size should.
Yeah. I'm definitely about to do a lot with it. I keep on talking about these infamous, quote unquote, countdown clocks that I'm about to do. I was going to do them with a Blackmagic camera, and I've decided that I'm probably going to do it with the iPhone because it's a little easier for me to do it. The idea is to capture ambisonic sound and then capture log footage and then capture a probe so that I can light my countdown clocks, my 3D countdown clocks, so I can light them and then put them into a scene. And I may still shoot some of them with a Blackmagic camera. I might shoot with a couple different cameras, but the point was that I wanted to make them look really, HDR-y, for our HDR shows. Anyway, but I think I'm going to be shooting a bunch of it with the iPhone, and I'm going, hopefully, if I hurt my foot, but if it's better, I'm going to try to go to the beach this weekend.
Well, so this was a really common question, and I'd love to know your guys' take on it. When is a case that, you have whatever camera you want available sitting next to you, but you will still choose to pick up an iPhone? Because I think there's a lot of skepticism of like, oh, well, of course Apple did this to promote themselves, but what will be a real world use case where you will choose that smaller camera?
The use case that I would say that didn't happen, they ended up using something else, but I got a request late last week. We have to shoot an insert for you for your show. We had a show yesterday, and we have to shoot some actors, and they're not, they were in another country, and they said, what are the specs? They ended up using a bigger camera, but they said, if we have to, what are the specs on the iPhone 15 that we can use to give you something that you can actually show? And I was like, okay, here it is. And I said, I need, in our case, I was like, we don't want 24, we want 5994. I want an Apple ProRes. If you can, give me 4K HQ, which means you're going to have to put a drive on it. But if you can't, you can drop down to 2997 and send it to me that way, and it'll be okay. But the fact that I was giving them, as soon as I finished the email and sent them that, I was like, I cannot believe I just gave pro specs to someone on how to shoot an interview. So I think Apple obviously has taken it a little further than most of us would. If any of us had any, at any budget, at one budget, I'd be using, I own a lot of Blackmagic cameras, so that's easy for me to throw in there. At any budget, I tend to lean into Venices and Aries, that tends to be where we, for a lot of our stuff. All the stuff I did yesterday, my production was all Blackmagic and worked great. When I'm given any budget in the world, I usually use Aries for that. But I will say that for pickup shots, for insert shots, for interviews, for news, for really, you wanting to have a little bit of extra for your promo, and I do almost all of my training on my iPhone. I've done that for years because it's so fast. I can go down here and I can go up here, and then I put it down here and it's over here. And now being able to do that and now be able to color it.
Man. Yeah, I think a lot of the attention was given to, really tightly controlled productions like this Apple one. Well, they won't typically choose an iPhone. And I think that's true. Most movies aren't going to choose an iPhone. But there's most of the videos that get made are more in the world that I am, which is more like smaller commercial productions, like 10, 20 person teams, and being able to grab inserts. Think about travel content, which is something I've done quite a bit in the past. I will often probably end up choosing to shoot it on a lot of just wides of scenery and stuff. Why not shoot it on the phone? It's fully stabilized. Don't need to put it on a gimbal. I can just walk around and nobody will spot the difference. It will actually match.
That movie, The Florida Project, if you saw that, it's about this guy who lives in a flea bag motel outside of Disney World. And they wanted to shoot the last scene inside Walt Disney World, inside the Magic Kingdom. They did not have permission. And so they shot it all on an iPhone without permission, grabbed it wild, and it's the last scene in the movie is all shot on the phone. Although the Arri Alexas were used for the rest of the movie, but they brought it in for that. And I've worked on promos for a lot of features where we'll shoot with a Canon 300 or Alexa for the promos, the interviews, celebrity interviews, and then they'll go to do the social releases for those same interviews, and they'll whip out the phone and they shoot all the social stuff directly on the phone. Because I guess they want that handheld look, and they shoot it portrait.
I saw someone yesterday.
Yeah, they shoot it portrait.
So in the project I was working on, there was a whole bunch of big posters and walls and stuff like that. It was red carpet, and this woman walked by, and she was obviously from social. She just kind of walked by with her phone in vertical, just like, this is how, and then she waved at everybody, and they all yelled and screamed as she walked down. And she's just kind of walking along with her phone. And as a camera person, I'm like, what is she doing? Like, why? How is that even usable content? But that was what they were going to put out. I was like, okay.
Another thing Apple did here too is the built-in LUTs in Final Cut are a perfect match, which doesn't always happen. I find, Canon's, if you use the default Canon LUTs or Sony LUTs, they do not look like a great Rec 709 conversion. I would never use any of the manufacturer conversions, but what Apple did with Apple Log in Final Cut only, because you can't really get anywhere else, just looks like normal iPhone footage. Like it really transforms it. So if you are mixing it, if you're shooting both social and real content, you shoot it all in Log, you can make it look like that casual, shot on a phone look, or you can throw a more do a Davinci color space transform, and all of a sudden it looks like real footage.
Yeah. It's great. Hey, Tyler, thanks for stopping in and being part of our little conversation. Maybe we might try to drag you in more often if you're
for
up
sure.
for it.
No, thanks, Alex. Great to be here. I mean, it's awesome.
Really great to have you. And thanks to the rest of the panel for your time. We can't do this without you. For great first hour, second hour. Thanks to the producers answering some of our questions today, and also asking a lot of questions for keeping this conversation going. A quick reminder: if your questions go back in the first hour, of course they go back to you. You can go into the little hamburger in Mukana and pull them back out again. And if you put them with the QR code, of course we can we'll pull them back in another day. So just they're not lost; they're just simply put back on the shelf. So you can bring them back in the next day. But thanks to all the producers for all the great questions, and thanks to the incredible team on the back end that makes this happen 7 days a week in all kinds of challenges. We've moved the kit. We're using different systems, and we do it 7 days a week. And we've been doing it. We haven't missed a day since March 25th, 2020. So we've been doing this every day for quite some time, and it's just an incredible team that manages it, that manages the back end, manages the technical, keeps on developing the hardware and software that we need to make this work. I just really appreciate everybody's contribution. We have a couple announcements. Tony Mobley is back. He's going to be talking to Ken Jordan tomorrow about ChatGPT and making images and all kinds of other AI sorcery. So look out for Tony Mobley's show. There's more details in the email that goes out. And also a reminder that today is the show workshop. So if you're trying to figure out, should I be a host or a panelist or a reader, or if you want to look a little bit of the back end, or if you want to test your Zoom ISO, that's at noon Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can jump into that. And so check that out in the email as well. We traveled 45,000 miles answering all these questions today. That's 73,000 kilometers. And that is 363 million bananas for scale. All right, let's go ahead and jump into After Hours. So great to have you, Tyler. That's good. Really glad we got that worked out. Sorry, it was such a last minute.
No, of course.
Here's the email. What was going to start out as a simple production yesterday turned into like a week of, moving fast.
That's usually the case.
I lost track of time. So anyway, but
no worries.
The phone looks great.
I mean, I am constantly shocked again. I keep expecting. I'm like, maybe I overrated it. Maybe it's not as good as I imagined. And then I go back and I look at it again. I'm like, no, this looks like every other camera. I mean, or it looks like a Micro Four Thirds, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's really good. All right, thanks.
That's great.
See you later.
All right, thanks.
All right, bye.